Welcome to Lingua Latina Tutorials with Mr. K, Pensvm D. This video explains the new grammar and syntax found in Chapter 34 of the Lingua Latina series. It is meant to accompany the Latina disco text available from Focus Bookstore and the Pensvm D worksheets available from 50% Latin.blogspot.com or christianlanguage.com. Let's go into the text, and we get to see some Latin poetry in this chapter. The first new feature is in line 35. Let's go to, here we have Julius, who says, Mihi non libet spectara ludos istos feroces. So it isn't pleasing to me to watch those barbaric games. Mihi non libet, notice that libet, it is pleasing, takes a dative. It goes together with a dative, just like we saw licet before. Licet, it is permitted or it is right for me. Mihi non licet would be it isn't right for me. Mihi non libet means I don't like it, or it isn't pleasing to me. Here we see that liber or libet means placet. In line 40, we have here we have said ex novissimis circensibus maestus ABI cum ille auriga cui plerique spectatores favebant ex curu lapsus, etc. So, but I left sad. I left sad from the most recent chariot races when that charioteer, whom most of the spectators were favoring, cui plerique spectatores favebant. Favebant, they were favoring, the spectators were favoring. The object of favebant is cui. It's the dative case. It's where you'd expect quem, an accusative, you get cui, the dative of qui. So that's the reason why it takes that. You've got to remember that favera, to give your favor to someone, is going to take that dative. So when you're memorizing these words, make sure you remember that. And then also, here's a quick list of some of the most common verbs that take the dative. And you can remember it, the acronym is CRIPPIES, kind of like hippies, but it's spelled C-R-I-P-P-I-S, CRIPPIES. So the first one on the list for the C is credere, to believe or give your trust to, the dative. The R is resistere, to resist or to stand against someone, in the dative. Ignoscere is the I. Ignoscere is to forgive someone, in the dative. Parcere, to spare someone, in the dative. Persuadere, to persuade someone, in the dative. Invidere, to hate or envy someone, in the dative. And studere, to study something, in the dative. Those there are many others, but that's a nice starting point. And in this chapter we have three more, and favera is one of them, to give favor to someone. In line 55, we have, let's start with Ovidius Poeta. Ovidius Poeta qui ingenium mulierum tam bene noverat quam ipsae mulieres rationem reddit hoc versus. So the poet Ovid, who knew the nature of women as well as women themselves, gives the reason in this verse. So, or in this line of poetry, noverat is actually, it's a pluperfect form, right? Third person singular, pluperfect indicative active. So they from novisse, to know. And remember that we've seen novisse before, that the perfect form of noi, to have known, is actually translated like a present. So when we get to the pluperfect form of noi, instead of having he had known, we translate the pluperfect just like the perfect. So the perfect's translated like the present, and the pluperfect like the perfect. In line 57, we have a line of poetry from Ovid. Spectatum veniunt spectentur ut ipsae. They come to watch, here we have a supine with motion, right? They're coming, and then to do this is a purpose. They're supine, and then they come spectenter upt ipsi. You're going to notice when we see poetry, because the poets have to meet this very strict rhythm. Latin poetry is highly rhythmic, and to meet those specific meter requirements, they will change the normal word order dramatically. So that's one of the tricks of poetry. Here we have the normal word order for this would be veniunt ut ipsi spectentur, so that they themselves are seen. And so we have a purpose clause here. They're coming so that they themselves are being watched, so that they will be watched. So just pay attention to the word order and know that the endings and so the case system will help us to put the words with their right adjectives and nouns together, and also the sense. If you get an overall sense of where the line is going, that'll help you to put the words in the correct order. On line 62, we have another line of poetry. Non ego nobilium sedeo studiosus equorum. So the normal, what this says is, I do not sit down, studious of the famous horses, or paying attention to the famous horses. A couple of features here. One is the odd word order. I don't sit down. Studiosus is sandwiched between nobilium equorum, which actually go together, of the famous horses, both genitive plural, or of the well-known horses. Studiosus, we've seen this before, like with Cupidus, takes an objective genitive, so studying the horses. So this is studiosus, the adjective comes from that verb, studere, to study. And another feature that I want to point out here is that we've got I don't sit down. These are the kinds of genitives that we have with nobilium and equorum objectives. And then also with nobilis, remember that nobilis, because it's a third declension adjective, it's going to be I stem in its genitive plural. So instead of nobilum, you get nobilium. Another feature here in this line is the meter. When we start to read Latin poetry, we're going to see some common meters show up. And to be able to identify the meter, you need to be able to point out or identify the long and short syllables in a line. And so it's easy when they're marked, right? So when you have a long mark, known, a long mark over a vowel tells you that that syllable is long. No. You stop when you get to the next consonant. The next consonant, unless there's two consonants, if there's only one consonant, then that goes with the next vowel. So no is a syllable, and then ne becomes a syllable. Is ne long or short? Well, it ends with a short vowel, the e, so it's short. So you've got no long, ne short. And then we have go. And so is go long or short? It's a short vowel, and there's only one consonant following it, so it's short. And then we have no, another long vowel. So you had long, short, short, long. And now b is short, li is short, and now we have So let's look at is followed by an s. Whenever you have two consonants following a vowel, ms, it lengthens the vowel that precedes them. So this is no longer a short vowel. This is now, the end of the syllable ends with m, so is a long syllable. So we've got non, nego no, bili long, sede, two shorts, sede o, long, studi o, long, susecor, that's long, So that is, that's the way that you can identify the long and the short syllables in a line. If the syllable ends with a short vowel, it is short. Otherwise, it's long. So what is the actual name for this meter? This particular line of poetry is called a hexameter line, because what we have is actually 6 feet 6 dactylic feet. Dactyl is a long followed by 2 short syllables. 6 of those in a row. Actually, what you have is 5 of them, followed by a spondy, which is 2 longs at the end. There could be some variation to that, but as a general rule, that's the pattern. So that's in this verse actually follows that pattern, where you have no, nego no, bilium, sedeo, studio, susaquorum. So bum, ba ba 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 bum bum. That's the meter, called dactylic hexameter. The next line does not follow that same hexameter pattern. What we're going to see in this kind of poetry, which is often used for love poetry, called elegiac poetry, E-L-E-G-I-A-C, elegiac poetry that Ovid liked to write. We have a hexameter line followed by a pentameter line, and a pentameter line has a couple of dactyls and then a middle syllable where it's a long syllable in the middle that breaks the line, followed by a couple, 2.5 more feet, or 2 dactyls and another long. So the rhythm for this is qui tamen ipsa faves. So qui tamen ipsa faves wink atutile precor. So you'll hear a boom ba ba boom ba ba boom, boom ba ba boom ba ba boom. That's the rhythm of pentameter verse. So a hexameter followed by a pentameter verse is called elegiac. So if you look, and we're going to identify the long and short syllables in this line, you can see that the last syllable of, so qui, that's a diphthong. Diphthongs are long. Tamen, qui tamen, we have ta, which is the short a, so that's short. Men, the end of the syllable is actually at meh. The n is attracted then to the next word. That you treat a line of poetry as if it's just one big word. So qui, 1 syllable, ta, 1 syllable, meh, 1 syllable, ni, 1 syllable. So meh, is it long or short? Meh is short because it's not followed by, it doesn't end with a long vowel. And we only have this one consonant here, so meh and then ni. Or nip. So is nip long? Yes, because P and S, we have 2 consonants. So nip, the syllable ends with a P, so that's a long syllable. Let's look at the next new feature, which is line 65. And we have ne tibi non notus quem facis esset amor. So the main verb here is veni, I have come, so that I can talk with you and I can sit with you, and I have come not so that it not be unknown to you. Ne tibi non notus esset goes with this. So this is, again, the word order is quite, the esset has been separated from the main, its main clause. So that it not esset be non notus to you, not known to you, so that not be unknown to you, the amor quem facis, which you are making. So basically he's saying that I'm sitting here not, I've come not, so that it not be unknown how much I love you, or what love you're making in me. The next new feature is in line 71. Here we have, let's get back up. Saipe me I tandem dixi disceda puellae. Puellae. We have, often I said to my girl, come on, get out of here. I see that tandem, when it's with an imperative like disceda, means like, go on, do it. Come on, get out of here. So we have this split word order here with me'ai and puellae. I said to my girl. And you can tell by the endings here what goes that these two words go together, and also by context you can tell. In line 75, we have another poetic device. Implicuit que suos circum mea cola lacertoset, etc. So, and she entwined her arms, suos lacertos, separated by some other words here. So she entwined her arms, circum mea cola, around my neck. What is the case number and gender of mea cola? Well, it's an accusative with circum. Circum takes the accusative, around, and then we have accusative plural neuter from column. So why do we have a plural? Because literally this says around my necks. And the reason we have a plural here is what we call the poetic plural. It was a little freedom that poets had to be able to get some short syllables into their lines of poetry where they need them. And so they would substitute singulars, particularly for the neuter singular like column, an ending noun. If they could substitute that short a, it allowed them to have more flexibility in their poetry. Okay, so then the next new feature is in line 88. And we have Lugete o veneres cupidinesque. So what is the meter of this line? This is a new poet. It's not Ovid anymore. It's Catullus. And Catullus especially enjoyed this particular meter. And this meter is called hendecasyllabic. It's hendecasyllabic or a hendecasyllable, which means hendeca in Greek means 11. So if you have 11 syllables per line in a specific order or a specific rhythm, and the rhythm here is too long, so it's bum, boom, boom, ba ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, boom. So here we have, it would be lu, get, o, when, res, cupid, sorry, lu, get, o, when, res, cupidinesque. That would be the rhythm of the line, and all these lines are going to follow that same pattern. Two longs, followed by a dactyl, long, short, short, followed by long, short, long, short, long, long, usually. Or the last syllable could also be short. So elision, though, notice when I said lugato, I didn't pronounce the E here in this imperative. I didn't say lugato when you're actually reading the poetry. And that's because of a rule of elision. If a word ends in a short vowel, and it's also followed by a vowel, that vowel will elide into the following vowel so that you will only hear the second vowel. And so in this situation where we have lugato, the E blends in with the O, and you get a lugate o when the res. Notice in the next line, you have quantum est. The same rule applies for im, or m ending nouns. The m with a vowel before it will also elide, but the rule is here, instead of when it's followed by est, is that the E is what elides. So instead of quantust, for example, or you end up with quantumst, Q-U-A-N-T-U-M, and then the E is elided from the S, so quantumst. So the rules of elision are in the grammar section for you to study, but that you should know when you're reading poetry that those vowels, those short vowels at the end, and the vowel at the beginning of est, if it has a vowel in front of it, or an m or im, will elide, it'll disappear. In line 93, we have another contracted word. Poetry is fond of contracting words for the rules of meter, again, to give more variety. For, this is talking about the passer, the sparrow. For it was sweet, and it knew its mistress, its very own mistress, as well as a girl knows her mother. So norrat is actually short, we see in the margin, for nowhereat. So this is our pluperfect indicative active from nowisse, to know. Again, it's pluperfect, but it's going to be translated as perfect, rather than just like the perfect of nowisse is translated as present. So for it was sweet and it knew. It's translated as simple perfect. It knew her own mistress, her very own mistress. The next feature is in line 112. So here we have, let's get down to 12. Vivamus mea lesbia atque amemus. I'm reading it like prose, but if we were going to read this like poetry, which it is, we would have to elide for lesbia atque. These two vowels would blend together, so you get lesbiatque. And the que amemus, we've got two vowels here, and so instead of que amemus, we would have quamemus. So lesbiatquamemus. In line 118, we have da mi passia mille dende centum. Give me 1,000 kisses, then 100. Da mi, this form of mi, is a contraction of mihi. It's the dative of ego. So give to me 1,000 kisses. In line 126, we have Catullus lesbiam uxorum ducere cupiebat nequero illa Catulo nupsit. So Catullus wanted to marry Lesbia, but that woman did not marry Catullus. So Catulo, here we have the dative case of Catullus. Why do we have dative? It's another one of those special verbs here, nupsit, to get married to someone, takes the dative, just like favere, to give your favor to someone, and just like the crippies that I had you write down earlier, nubera, to marry, is going to be another one of those special verbs. In line 152, we have, let's go down here, we have haec si inquam at tuleris venuste noster cenabis bene. So if you bring these things, I say, my good buddy, or my lovely one, you will dine well. Venuste noster literally is, it's a vocative from venustus, lovely one, or beautiful one, my beautiful one. But it doesn't say my beautiful one, it says our beautiful one. This is another example of a poetic plural. Noster often will show up in poetry to give more variety to the poet. And so you're going to translate this instead of venuste noster, you'll translate this as venuste me, my lovely one, my good buddy. In line 163, we have laudat amat cantat nostros mea Roma libellos. Another example of poetic plural. Subject here is mea Roma. My Rome praises, loves, and sings my books. Nostros, literally our books, but he's only talking about himself here, so translated as meos libellos, my books. In line 166, we have hoc volo nuc nobis carmina nostra placent. I want this. Now, again, poetic plural, our songs or our poetry are pleasing to us. Our poetry, our poems are pleasing to us. We would translate as my poetry is pleasing to me, or my poetry pleases me. The next new feature is in line 172. And here we have versiculos in me narrator scriberes cinna. Two features here. It is said, or it is bandied about, or is being reported, that Cinna is writing poetry against me, or verses against me. First feature, in me. In plus the accusative here of me indicates a kind of like an attack, the same thing as contra me, against me. And the second feature here is that we have the passive of telling or speaking, like we've seen this before with dicatur, it is said. If you have the passive of dicatur or dicere or narrare, then you end up in a nominative accusative construction rather than the indirect speech normal pattern where you have accusative plus the infinitive. That's why we have cinna in the nominative plus the accusative of scribere. So it is said that Cinna is writing verses against me. The next new feature is in line 174, and we have nil recitas. So you're reciting nothing, and you want to be seen to be a poet, Mamercus. So nil recitas, nil is actually a contracted form of nihil, and here's the accusative object of recitas, you recite nothing, but it ends up with a long I here, so giving the poet more variety. The next new feature is in line 180, and we have nil mihidas vivus dicis post fata daturum. So you're giving nothing to me while you're alive, vivus. You say, and it's implied that you're going to give it, te daturum, that you're going to give it post fata, after the fates. That's literally what it says, after the fates. Fata here is standing in place of after death. So you say that you're going to give it to me after you die, but again we have a poetic plural here, fata instead of fatum, because it gives that short vowel there to the poet to use in this place. The next new feature is in line 190. We have nubera vis prisco non miror Paula sapisti. So you want to get married to Priscus. I'm not surprised, Paula. You have been wise. Sapisti is from sapere, sap isse, to have been wise. It means to, in the perfect tense, it would be sap isti. You would keep that I before the isse, take off the isse, and you're going to end up with sapa I, sapa isti, sapa it. So two I's in a row, but those two I's here you see, they want to contract, they want to be blended together into one long I. So instead of sapa isti, you get sapisti, you have been wise. And the last new feature is in line 217. And let's go there. We will see rident omnes et Cornelia valde et diu plaudunt. They all laugh and they applaud Cornelius very much and for a long time. So plaudunt Cornelio. Notice Cornelio in the dative case. Plaudunt, they applaud him. Plaudunt, the verb, takes the dative. It's one of those crippies, or like fawera that we just saw, and here plaudera also takes the dative. So there you go. Those are the new features for chapter 34. Thank you for listening.